although the me may become more and more transparent, we have never come across anyone, including sages, stories of sages from the past, beautiful sages which are presently gracing this world. We can all still recognize their condition, their flavor. It may have become very light, but we must never presume that in our case it is gone 100%. That one that presumes that is the one that must be kept in servitude and in love for God. Because that one very quickly becomes special, full of pride, full of spiritual attainment. So as long as this world appearance is here, some conditioning is bound to play out, which is unavoidable. Therefore, insight, which is to know, really know intuitively what my reality is, self-knowledge, love, an unconditional anchor in our life, which keeps us deeply rooted in God instead of in me, and servitude, which is to live in faith, humility, prayerfulness, gratitude, and obedience. Is very important. So many times when we have insight that there is only the self, there is only awareness, and presence itself is only a qualitative distinction playing out within awareness, we may resist the notion of servitude. Love nobody resists, but the notion of servitude, by saying, but there is only one who should be in servitude, that one. You see, that's how you immediately catch it. The one who doesn't want to, that one. You see? The one who knows Advaita Vedanta now, the one who's had spiritual experiences, that one has not had any of this, but it's grasping at them. No? This is the tanmatra of the ego, the almost opaque, but still got the germ. You see? So if you give the germ fertile ground, what's going to happen? It's going to reinvent itself now. So some of the worst spiritual egos that the world has ever seen, at the core of them was true spiritual insight. And if you go far back in history, maybe Ravan is the best example. So before buying into the notion that there is only one who wants to be in servitude, why should there be servitude? Catch this one. The one who says, but why should there be servitude? That one. That awareness is not complaining. That one is. Awareness has no problem serving itself. It's not a resistive notion for itself. God serving God, no problem. All this is God serving God. So who has a problem? With head bowed down, who has a problem? That one must be kept in servitude. So be careful of this tendency to come to true insight, but then to make positions about it from the mind. You see? Just wait, don't worry. Allow the presence to move your mouth, to report about it itself. This tip, one tip can save you many years actually. Many get stuck in this. Got the insight. This is what it was. It was like this. It was like so. Then that can give birth to the spiritual ego. So I know. I saw it was like that. You see, like that. Then you two may argue and say, "Oh, but when I saw it was like this." No, no. But when I saw it is like this. I feel this. So then both may make positions about it, which are not needed. So the one who wants to own the spiritual knowledge and wants to be the claimant of it, I came to awareness, I am having true insight, I am living in my presence. The best antidote for that one is servitude, humility, faith, prayerfulness, obedience, and gratitude. Shall we break down servitude a bit? Because I feel like that to allow ourselves to be in service to that is a very strong way of honoring it. So all these sound like very simple words, but each of these actually is a satsang in itself. You see? So if you look at faith, have faith in God. Does faith mean have blind, irrational belief in God? Yeah? Blind, irrational belief in God. Is that what it is? No, it isn't. It is to, especially in satsang like this, it is to trust your own insight, which is intuitive, more than what your rationality or the world perceptions are telling you. So, a question to ask over there is what I've been asking. Are we living as if God is real? James, are we living as if God is here? So, to not be so quickly shaken out of it, to not be so quickly shaken out of it by some tiny world appearances. So many reports I get. No? Yes, yes, the insight is apparent to me. But when this happened, see, I lost it. My manager was rude to me, or my partner said this to me. Then I lost it all. See? That is a lack of faith. We are giving this more reality than our true intuitive insight. So to live a faithful life is to trust our intuitive insight more than what the world is showing us. It's not blind, it is to truly see with the right eyes. In this moment, are we living in faith? In this moment, are we living in God's light? Is God real? Is truth real? The truth that you came to, is it reality? Is it more real than this? Let's start with this. What? A coaster. God is more real than this coaster? Pakka? What if it come and hit you on your head? Huh? How could you? Yes. So, I'm obviously not throwing this anywhere, but I'm saying that when life slaps us around, it seems very real. To live in faith is to continue to give reality to your intuitive insight, to what the Sadguru within is telling you. Do we live like this? How many of us are living like this? Huh? Some moments you go away, or some moments you live like this. We live like that. That's the conditioning. So she's saying honestly that we live in some moments in faith. Yes, when suffering is squeezing our throat, then we say, God, God, God. That reminded me of Jesus saying, you may say, Lord, Lord, but I will not recognize you unless you followed the will of my Father. So it is not enough when we have no other option left then to call on God. When we have every option available to us, then to be with God is true faith. Of course, when life is squeezing our throat, we still must. That is the only option we have. But then when His grace, by His grace, things get resolved, and they always do. Then at least we must live in that faith, in that gratitude. But we forget. Then we again, boom, God, God, God. And again. That's like Kabirji said, sorry, Kabirji said, दुख में सिमरन सब करें सुख में करे ना कोई सुख में सिमरन जो करे तो दुख काहे को होए, which means that everybody remembers God in suffering. Nobody remembers God in peace time or joy time. Those who remember God in peace never need to go through suffering. You see, and I've noticed the flow of this world and how it plays out. God doesn't immediately like push us from happiness and things straight into deep suffering. You see? He nudges us. Yeah? सुधर जाओ बच्चों सुधर जाओ, little bit he nudges us again. And then we still don't listen, like a parent, no, saying come home, come home, come home. Then when she's done calling the child, he's just not listening, then the ear has to be pulled and pulled home, isn't it? So just like that, I feel like God in His love and mercy also operates like that. I feel like we are given the least possible suffering to turn us to God, to turn us to reality. But when we don't listen, then it gets amped up a bit more, amped up a bit more. So, in that poking, we must not just neglect it, we must not Advaita it away. Nothing is happening to me, I am the self. So that becomes then Advaita denial. We must look and see what is the pride I have, what is the shape that I've taken that is getting poked by this. And we must not amplify the problem by just using conceptual knowledge that we hear in Satsang. So that is faith. Then what else is important for servitude? Humility. Can you be a good servant if you're just like, you see, you're just treating God like the servant and you're like, yeah, what do you want me to do? So your word may be saying, I am at your service, but actually you're hoping that He'll be at our service. Most of spirituality in the world today is like that. I am praying to you, God, please make this happen. Give me a good job, make my relationship okay, do all of this. After praying for how long? 2 minutes. We become entitled. But I prayed to you also. So it is, isn't it disguised servitude where we wanting God to be our assistant? I think I am entitled. So we must notice this stuff. The other thing is that we're constantly expecting to make sense of God's ways. Right? But when a scientist says, so Neil deGrasse Tyson, he said, the universe has no obligation to make sense to us. You're like, yeah, that's fine. But that which is the creation of God will not make sense to us. We are accepting that, you see. But that which is the light of this universe, we're constantly expecting him to explain himself. Why did you do this to me? I have prayed to you also. I am devoted to you also. I am such a good person. Why are you doing this? Why do bad things happen to good people? Who are you asking for an explanation from? Who are we asking? The one who's playing with these trillions of stars bigger than the sun, as if they are grains of sand. We're asking that one, why do you do this? What capacity do we have to understand his ways? This is pride. I pray to God, but he still didn't listen to me. What have you made God into? So it is said that God created man in his image. But actually, what has happened in the world today is that man has created God in their image. So we must let go of all this foolish pride and come into humility. We must accept that we don't have any capacity, anything special at all about us. We think we are a bundle of food. We spend all of our life thinking that we are bundles of food. And we want to argue with God. We want to have one-on-one. See, eye to eye with God. Look him in the eye and question him. How could you do this to me? It's just our silliness. So our humility must be also authentic by the awe that we experience when we meet God. I'm more and more awestruck every day. And so reverence, humility, all of that come naturally. Because what is so worthy about this foolish man? This mouth doesn't even deserve to utter the word God. But in His grace, in His sheer love, He has made this one an instrument to share His light. So that is humility, obedience. To be obedient to someone, you have to meet them, isn't it? Or at least have some mode of communication. How can we be obedient to that which we have not met? So live in God's presence. The inside part has helped you come to God's light. You must live in God's presence. And once you live with the Master, then the Master will guide you. Initially, the guidance will just be the organic movement which is happening to you as you are empty. They're just unfolding. Whatever you take yourself to be, whether it is the universe, you see, the universe is unfolding in His light moment to moment, or even if you take yourself to be the body mind, then allow the body mind to unfold moment to moment. That is to live in the no mind, to remain in the unborn, where already in our emptiness, all our problems are gone. Life is no longer suffering. You see, the world, as Buddha said, is suffering no longer when you are in the no mind, empty. So start with that level of obedience. Then you may notice that some guidance is coming. You may be talking to a friend and you may find your mouth saying something from a different place. And you may wonder, where did that come from? And all of us would obviously love that, because who doesn't want to share satsang with others? But can we not follow our own satsang? So if God can guide us, if God can guide others, why can God not guide this life? So there we go from organically allowing God's presence to move this life, which is the end of all trouble anyway, to truly becoming His servant by following His guidance in the heart. And that is why it's important not to look at consciousness as if it is some scientific force. Like, can magnetism speak to you? No. Electricity speak to you? No. But can God's presence speak to you? Of course it can. So remain empty and follow God's guidance. But when He guides you, projects may not seem like they are the simplest. So like Hanumanji was given the most difficult projects. Go alone to Lanka and give Sita Ma a message. Go get the Sanjeevani booty from the north of India. Fly and do it. And of course, the strength to accomplish the Project will also come from God, but we must not wait for that first. The mind can make that into a block. Say, okay, if you're going to ask me, then give me the strength also. That is also a lack of faith. Because is God not intelligent enough to know that if He's asking you, then you will need to be given the strength also? So in all cultures, all traditions, we have these examples of those who are guided by God to do the most difficult things. So whether it is Hanuman, or it is Moses or Abraham, or it is the Prophet Muhammad. So wherever you look at it, you find true servants of God. Guru Nanak Ji, and especially also the later Sikh gurus who went through a lot of torture. Are you starting to see how true spirituality is worlds apart from the self-help type spirituality? Where we say, oh, this practice is not working for me anymore because I used to find so much bliss and peace. Now it's stopped. So all this egoic sort of idea of thing, whereas obedience should seem risky. Faith should seem risky. What are you risking for God? What are you saying? Where are you drawing boundary for God? Saying all this is fine. You see? For you, I will come to Satsang thrice a week, sit there for 3 hours listening to the ramblings of this man. But don't go beyond that. That's all I can give you. What do you think will happen if you draw this boundary? Then you're saying the rest of it, I'm on my own. You see? You see? So, this wanting to be on our own, unmeddled by God, is the only hell there is, I feel. Separation from God's light is the only hell there is. So, where do you draw the boundary? Can we draw a boundary for the creator, the preserver, and the dissolver of this universe? And say, no, no, your scope is still there. My relationship, my money, my health, and my intellectual pursuits, I will handle. And then when we say, but I attend satsang, then isn't that just like what we call in the corporate world a tick in the box, like guilt alleviation? That I haven't really given up my life for that which I know in my heart to be reality, the truth. But I do attend satsang from time to time. The idea of this is not to make anyone feel guilty or unworthy, but just to shake you up a bit. Away from a lip service, big words type of spirituality into a true lived spirituality from the heart, moment to moment. The mind will make all this sound very radical. But actually, it's very natural. If you truly loved somebody from your heart, truly loved somebody, then would your life not be fully dedicated to them, devoted to them, and their will? Doesn't all the aspects of faith, humility, obedience come naturally when we're deeply in love? We're willing to do anything for the beloved. But what is worth loving? That which is real, no? That which is giving light to this world, that which is gifting us our breath. Or prove me wrong and say, no, no, this is all biochemical reaction. The brain does all of this. Then explain your life using the brain as the construct. Intuitively, you have a sense that a long lost friend is going to call you. Brain, it does that. Intuitively, you have a sense of what is auspicious to you, where you have to be, where you don't have to be. Something brings you to satsang, in spite of the fact that your mind could be resisting so much. Is your brain doing all of that? See, I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. I could have been in a million other places. And it opened up something for me. Is that biochemical? Explain your life with all of its miracles, which once they happen, we consider tiny. But if they didn't happen, then we would say, oh, my life is so miserable. We're in so much denial about a living presence, which is so clearly and apparently here. So, how to be obedient to God's will? Everyone has told us we must be obedient to God's will. Hukum rajai chalna, nanak likhyana. I said often that the word Muslim itself means the one who follows God's will. Islam is to follow God's will. And the stories of Lakshman, Hanuman, Bharat, all of them are beautiful because what? They were so devoted to God that they would follow His will even at the cost of great danger, great risk. Abraham, Moses. That's why Kierkegaard, he said, no risk, no faith. And at first I didn't like it. But it's all the self. What risk? But I truly dove deep into that statement. I realized that just that one line can set fire to bring fuel to our spirituality. From a comfortable lip service spirituality to a really potent life-changing transformation. Where it is not God for me, what is God doing for me, how can God help me? To me for God. I'm available to you, Father. What would you have me do? I'm here as a mere instrument of your grace. Guide this instrument as you see fit. And learn to trust His silence more than the highest pointing from the head. We're very impatient with God. For years I've said we are more impatient with God than we are with Domino's Pizza. You know, at Domino's, you place the order, you wait 30, and sometimes you give them extra leeway. No? God, I prayed to God, nothing happened. How long were you empty? For a second, because that's how much time God wants, like that. But this is about risking our whole life and accepting that silence if we have to, because that's what love means. It's unconditional. So we must get away very, very far from the popular notion of God, which is a wish-fulfilling genie. Just like pray to God, rub the lamp, genie will come. What do you want, my child? Tathastu. It has to be the other way around by a much greater degree. Every moment be available to God. For that you have to live in His light, live in His presence. How will you live in God's will if God Himself has been relegated to a concept in your head? No, it has to be a living presence, a living reality. So that is obedience. Yeah? Prayerfulness. Now, most of us in Advaita Vedanta have a notion that we can't pray to God for something. You see? But we're happy to sit and worry about that for a long time. I'm worried about my job. I'm worried about something, my children. So we sit and worry. But because actually it is not good to go to God to ask for something specific, I'll not pray to Him for that. Now this is an absurdity, which is a mental creation. So if you're going to sit and worry, you'd rather sit and pray. Because what do you think? Is that God is not noticing your worrying? That it's a hotline. Like, oh God, I'm praying. So now He listens. No. He is the light in which every moment of our life takes birth. What do we think we will hide from Him? What the mind can know about you is nothing compared to the one who is breathing you, who is birthing you every moment. So it's very good to have your head bowed down and pray to Him rather than sit and think fruitless thinking. Bow down and pray. It doesn't mean that you must always pray for something specific. You can pray for His grace, His love, His mercy, His guidance. And then your prayer, when it is truly authentic in your heart, becomes a communion. Not just a communication, but actually it deepens His presence. When you remove the okay, so we'll come to this point. How do we pray? You see, I'm also learning to pray over the last 3-4 years. You see? And I feel like I'm just scratching the surface. But how do we pray? Some of us pray very dramatically. Oh God, please hear my call. You see, as if you're on stage performing some Shakespeare or something. He doesn't need, you don't need to pray like that. It's not like he can hear only Shakespearean type English. It's not true. You don't have to become like that. You see? So that's one end of the spectrum where we become very formal and very like we are sending a letter to the Prime Minister or something like that. We become like that. And then other people, they pray like, yo, bro, why haven't you done this? Yeah, we pray like that. There's a certain sweetness to it if it is coming from innocence. It's fine, but both of those are I wouldn't recommend. Although either of those are better than not praying. Either of those are still better. I can just pray naturally. Father, I'm concerned about my child, and please guide him or her to make the most auspicious decision. So to pray without pretense, because in our prayer itself, sometimes the pretense makes it like we're not really buying the fact that God is actually listening. We're just doing it because it may be the right thing to do, but we're not doing it as if, we're talking to somebody who's sitting in front of me. And this is much more intimate than sitting in front. So before you have any other tactics for anything in your life, you can bring it to prayer. If you don't use tactics and you're open and empty, then that itself is prayer. But don't let your mind use that. Your mind can use that and say, no, you don't need to pray, you're just empty. And then 2 minutes later, you're worrying about it again. So be honest with yourself. This is like golf. Yeah? Like golf in the sense that you only compete against your own handicap. So nobody from outside needs to come and judge you and say you're not prayerful enough, you're not obedient enough, you're not honest enough, you're not prayerful enough. So you don't need to lie to yourself. If God's presence is a reality for you and He is here right now, rather than bringing it to your head, why would you not bring it to His presence? And don't let your mind convince you that this is not worthy to bring to God, this is not good enough, this you can handle on your own. You see, that handling on our own is the original sin. When we started to believe that we have the capacity to judge good and bad, right and wrong, to not live everything out of surrender to God. Do you feel that Hanuman would have said, no, this I don't need to take to Ramji inside my heart. This I'll deal with myself. It is said about Hanuman that he opened his heart and there Ram and Sita were. What does that depict? Of course, we must take it literally as well, but he's talking about all of us. God is there in your heart. Why would we not live that way? So we must become prayerful. And if all of this is sounding like too much, I'd rather just be open and empty. I can't be this. No, I'm just saying, target any one of these. Target any one of these, and the whole table comes closer. Pull at any one leg. What else is servitude? Amol, of course, reminded me about this, and I feel it's very important. Gratitude. Do we live in gratitude for what we have? Are we grateful for the fact that our heart is beating? We must drown all entitlement in gratitude. God has taken such good care of us. In spite of our extreme foolishness, and this man here, of course, is extremely foolish. The silliest ideas we have, and yet God's grace doesn't leave us. He's never abandoned us. Even when we've thought we were abandoned and we've complained. But do we spend a moment in gratitude? There was a survey done in America, and they said that the average Christian in America prays for 10 minutes every day. And that number they were presenting as a very small number. And India is supposed to be the hub of religion and spirituality. But I feel like if you were to do a survey, our number will be much smaller than that. Do we unconditionally just love God for 10 minutes a day? And I'm not saying that 10 minutes is enough, but it's a start. Without wanting anything, just to deepen in our love for God. And that is the beauty of love. The beauty of love is this, that although we cannot produce it, we can. You cannot say, I created this much love, but you can actively love. Nothing can get in the way. If you want to love God, you can actively love God. And is that you loving God or is that God loving you? Nobody can say. It is the same. But are we going to go with our mind's objections? Just this man, foolish as he may be, is telling you you can love God. Try it out. Try to love Him. So servitude mixed with this love is bhakti. There is no bhakta who is not a good servant. And there is no bhakta who doesn't love God beyond his own life or their own life. So that is how you honor. That is the answer to her question. How do you honor the insight? It is worth this honoring, because what you're discovering by God's grace historically has been extremely rare. Sometimes we don't realize its value. We just feel like, awareness, okay, nothing's happening to awareness, it's just there. Or consciousness, just like a beingness. We use all these big words. But do we realize how many lifetimes people have struggled and what sadhana and tapasya has happened before this darshan has been made available? And the problem with simplicity is the mind can always come and say, what's there? Everyone has this, everyone is this. It's very easy to use big words. But to really honor, as Guruji has said, to honor this discovery, why should we honor it? What is the need to honor? Everyone is awareness, no? Who is to honor whom? Don't let this one that is resisting in this Advaita mind, that one must be brought to, must become a bhakta. Don't waste your life. Don't waste a moment. It is not too late today, but it will be tomorrow. Kabir ji said, ये अवसर बार बार नहीं आवे. And the Granthis sang this in the Gurdwara the other day. Karima remembers, but I've just been listening to this, and the singers at the Gurdwara also sang this morning. Avsar bar bar nahi aave mean the opportunity does not come again and again. What is Kabir doing? Is he trying to use fear tactics and scarcity principle with marketing, spiritual marketing? No. There is no reason to doubt him like that. He did not want anything from us. Why is he saying the opportunity does not come again and again? Because if you look back at history, it's very rare. God realization, self-realization. Growing up, when we used to hear these terms, we used to feel that's 1 in a billion. It's only with the advent of internet and you can search Satsang and Advaita Vedanta, which was supposed to be kept in secret. You see, these are secret scriptures. Upanishads mean to sit close and to share like in secret. No, don't spread this outside. But now it's fully available by God's grace. But the immensity of it should not be forgotten. Because the mind will not give up playing. You may have an awakening experience, you may have 10. But how many truly become free? In being with Guruji so many years and being in Satsang for more than a decade now, we've seen many awakening experiences. But how many have really become free? And what has been missing from that freedom? What is the inability to stay with the insight? It is because of the lack of servitude, the lack of love, to make it into more an academic endeavor or a scientific sort of, oh, I came to awareness, that is my thing. Is very, who are we talking about? You're talking about the absolute in which consciousness is born. So don't just reduce that or normalize that. or regularize that because we know these words. And entitlement, we must throw out. This instant we must throw out. Because you could have lived the most sattvic life and still not have a right over God. Nobody can go to God with rights. They can only go head bowed down. So nobody must ever believe that they were worthy of grace, they were worthy of entitlement, of enlightenment. They were entitled to it because they were so good in their inquiry and they were so good in their love. Stay away from this pride, because this pride will turn off the fire and you'll become just parroting robots. Just parroting robots. What you heard in Satsang, what you take to be true. There's no real authenticity if the fire is burnt out because of pride. And that's why I was saying the other day that don't gauge yourself, don't benchmark yourself. But if you're going to, then benchmark yourself on servitude. Have I taken God to be real? Or has it become all about me? It's a very important question. Have I taken God to be real, or is it all about me? Am I living as if I am somebody and something? Or do I recognize that nothing in the story of this universe, even this tiny universe, my role is not even that of a 2-second extra. Nothing. 1 in 7 billion, 1 in so many trillions. Nothing. Have I used the tools that grace and the masters have made available to us? I prayed my heart out and not left anything for myself, just prayed. And do I remember to give thanks for every day our life is full of grace and miracles? There are only two things: miracles that we recognize and miracles that we don't yet recognize as being miracles. We may look down upon things, we may be ungrateful for them, but at the passage of time we realize we're so thankful that that happened.